Chapter 36. Eggs. John Hamman, 31. Cretaceous. Jenny couldn't hit anything. It was embarrassing. Finding good stones had proven harder than making the sling. This was a silty, dusty plain, notably short of large riverbeds full of nice, round stones. She finally found some jagged pieces and chipped at them until they were vaguely round. She was blaming the stones. They were not slipping smoothly from the pouch. It was throwing off her aim. That was her story, and she was sticking to it. Small game was abundant, this time boasting a great number of smaller dinosaur species. Some of them, arguably, had crossed the line into being birds. She could scare them up, but she could not seem to hit them on the run. She had better luck searching for them in the early morning when there was enough light to see. She would find them curled up under patches of ferns. It was not a problem to dispatch them in their sleep with her spear or with one good blow from her knobkerry. She could roast them in their own skin, wrapped in leaves and buried in the ashes of her fire, with coals on top to slow cook them. One thing lacking was any kind of seasoning. She dearly wished for some salt. Alternatively, if she placed a large rock in the middle of her fire and allowed it to heat, she could cook steaks on the hot stone as if they were pan-fried. On the third day, she found the eggs. It wasn't one nest. A dozen were scattered across the meadow. It was early in the morning. She found a fresh nest, recently constructed. The depression in the earth was still fresh. The walls of the nest were about a foot high, and the clutch was loosely covered by a mound of dirt in the middle. Digging into the central mound, she found the eggs, which were about the size of ostrich eggs, around 3 pounds. She had no idea what species they were, some form of ornithischian, based on the tracks. She guessed they were of medium size. She took one of the eggs and recovered the nest. Making her way back into the trees, Jenny moved away from the hatching ground. Once she was a good distance away, she found a place where she could make a fire and sat down to cook her prize. First, she took her pocket knife, and holding the egg upright between her legs, she carefully made a small hole in the smaller end of the egg. She wished she had a pan to scramble it in. She preferred her eggs scrambled or cooked into an omelette. A thought struck her as she looked down at the egg between her knees. Propping it so it would not spill, she went and found a reed. Cleaning it as well as she could, she slipped the end down through the hole in the top of the egg. She put one hand on either side and began to slide them back and forth, making the reed spin. She stirred all through the egg with her magic wand. Now, to see if that did anything. Once the fire was somewhat established, she sat the egg upright next to it, with rocks behind it to reflect the heat. She turned the egg from time to time. With the size of the thing, cooking it might take a while. Jenny's grandfather had taken her to a small family restaurant on several occasions that had specialized in cooking breakfast. They made enormous omelettes. Even sharing one, they had never been able to finish it. This would dwarf that meal. She wished he could be here with her right now to help her eat it. She wished she had some way to scramble it and cook it in a pan with cheese and a little ham. She kept turning it. Somewhere out there was a man, but not the man she knew. Not the kindly old man who had taken her to breakfast on a chilly Saturday morning, but a younger man, a man who had never met her. She wondered what he would be like. Would he be the same? When she met this man, would she be able to see her grandfather in him? When she thought it was getting close, she poked down into the center of the egg with her reed. No, it wasn't done yet. It took longer than she expected to cook all the way through. When it finally was done, all the way through, she pulled it away from the fire. It was hot. She propped it between her legs where she tried to remove the shell. She had to use the pliers from her leather man to break off pieces of the thick shell to expose a nicely scrambled egg. She sliced into it, digging out a bite at a time. It needed salt. Other than its size, it was very much like a chicken egg. When she was done, Jenny had only eaten about half of it. That left the bottom half of the eggshell with one more meal of saltless egg. There ought to be something she could do with the shell. Ostrich eggs had been used for all kinds of things back home. Could she cook in it? If she got another, maybe she could make a second canteen out of it. In Egypt, they had been used as water carriers as far back as 4000 BC. Well, she was much earlier than that. Maybe she could steal a march on them and start a trend. She was feeling very full and moved away from her cook site to find a nice place to relax in the morning sun. This would be the life if she didn't have a big wound in her leg and a deadly serious mission upon which the lives of many men and her own depended. Yeah, there was that little thing. Her leg was getting better. It wasn't as sore now and was easier to put weight on it. Soon, she should start making her way to the river. It was out there somewhere. She would have to get another egg, if only for the shell. It would be nice to be able to carry a bit more water. She guessed one of the same size would hold over a quart.